Mr. President, we have before us today a once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver legislation to create a safer, stronger, and more prosperous America.
They will not only doom their own communities, they will doom their political fortunes, their own political fortunes, and have no one to blame but themselves.
And welcome back to the State of the Union. We could be just hours away from Republican senators passing their version of President Trump's policy bill. How will it play with Americans, and how will it play with the president's base? My panel is with me now. Let me start with the Republican elected official at the table, Congressman Riley Moore of West Virginia. Are you worried at all at the changes being made to the bill in the Senate in terms of whether or not it will be able to get through the House once it goes back to the House?
No, we've been in consistent conversations with the Senate on this bill, and as you just heard in your two previous guests, this is 85% of what was in the House bill, as Senator Katie Britt said, 85%. Now, to me, one of the things that's a huge improvement in the Senate bill is the green energy tax credits. It's actually more aggressive than what we had done in the House.
Taking them out.
Yes, taking them out. It's more aggressive. It's not shovel in the ground as we had in the House bill. It's if it's not in operation, it's over. And that is great for my state of West Virginia. We're an energy state. We're a traditional fossil fuel energy state. That is a good thing. So for me, I think there are a lot of improvements in this Senate bill, and obviously they've been negotiating on salt. I'm not a salt state, so but that's been a constant conversation they've been having that seems to be trending in a positive direction.
Congressman Chris Deluzio, second-term Democrat from the Pittsburgh area. I'm sure you object to the policy of this bill, and we just heard Mark Warner make a good case for that, and I'm sure you'll make a case for it too, against the bill. But what about the politics of it? Do you think this provides Democrats with an opening? Because as of now, and I have no idea what's going to look like in 2 Novembers from now, but as of now, it's not a popular bill.
Nor should it be, right? This is a bill that's going to take health care away from, in Pennsylvania, 500,000 people, more than 20,000 in my district, to pay for tax giveaways to the ultra-rich, while jacking up the debt to the tune of $4 trillion. That's bad policy and it's bad politics. This is happening while we still have rising costs. We saw the GDP shrink in the first quarter. So if I'm Mr. Moore and the Republicans here, what are you doing? Don't go down this path. But if you do, we're going to pound you at the polls.
Speaking of pounding, Senator Tillis voted against proceeding, and he's probably going to vote against the bill, too, because he's concerned about the Medicaid cuts. Rand Paul also because he's concerned about raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. President Trump, as is his wont, takes to Truth Social. On Tillis, he says, looks like Senator Tom Tillis, as usual, wants to tell the nation that he's giving them a 68% tax increase as opposed to the biggest tax cut in American history. Tom Tillis is making a big mistake for America. For Rand Paul, he says, what's wrong with this guy? And it's not just talk, we should note, because he said the similar thing when Tom Massey from the House, a Republican from Kentucky, who pretty much votes against every budget bill there is because he's a deficit hawk. This is what we're showing right now. These are Trump allies are now running ads against Massey. They're going to challenge him. How serious should Republicans take these threats, you think?
Listen, John Thune's been working around the clock to get this bill through, and I think he's going to get it through the Senate. And this is not what he's trying to wake up to, is the President of the United States threatening to potentially primary one of his most vulnerable senators in Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis, you can't risk losing. Thomas Massey, by the way, is safe. He's beloved in his district, but he's also doing what Massey is going to do, and he actually relishes this kind of a fight. But the balance of power in the Senate could run through North Carolina, and Tom Tillis has a very uphill battle there. And he's somebody who, by the way, has voted with Donald Trump 90% of the time. So I would imagine, similar to when I worked for Donald Trump, there are people around him saying, listen, have it out, say what you think, but it's not worth engaging in actually priming someone who can win, who's going to need to create a little bit of distance from you, by the way, when it comes down to a general election, because losing Tom Tillis is not a win for Donald Trump's agenda.
How much do you think Democrats are going to take advantage of the criticisms of the bill that we're hearing from the Tom Masseys and Rand Pauls when it comes to the deficit, and the Josh Hawleys and Tom Tillises when it comes to the Medicaid cuts?
Well, they are. So on Tom Tillis, if he is primary, Donald Trump has a history of picking bad candidates.
Especially North Carolina.
Exactly. So bring it on. Democrats should use this because it's not just taking advantage politically. This bill is going to hurt people. It's going to hurt Democrats. It's going to hurt Republicans. The thing that Democrats are going to have to do, though, in the midterms is some of the impact is a bit delayed. And so they're going to have to connect the dots of what is on that paper that might be passed into law to actually the impact of human beings. It's not just healthcare, it's veterans, last election, we lost young people. We know young people care about the climate. Rolling back green energy tax credits, that can activate different parts of our coalition that were a little static last election cycle. So it's not going to look the same way in every district and every Senate race, but it will be used against Republicans for sure.
To be clear, though, President Trump ran on this. President Trump ran on repealing these green energy tax credits. And just to kind of put this into context, why it's so important, we have this terawatt challenge out there as it relates to generating enough power to be able to compete in AI. This is an arms race. It's the new nuclear arms race, and it's us or China that's going to win. China certainly understands the stakes that are involved here. That's why you see them building a new coal-fired power plant every month. And over here, we can't get a pipeline built in 14 years like the Mountain Valley Pipeline through West Virginia.
I understand you're with them on the energy stuff, but you represent West Virginia. Are you not concerned about the Medicaid and SNAP cuts?
Anybody who needs to have Medicaid and has Medicaid currently is not going to lose Medicaid. We have work requirements in there, which vast people around this country certainly support that. That makes sense to me. Taking illegal immigrants off Medicaid, which they shouldn't have anyway, and 11 states offer that, absolutely, they should not have Medicaid. Yes, that's the right thing to do. And the people that need to have Medicaid, particularly the traditional population, which it's not even touching at all, that's not part of this at all, no one's going to lose Medicaid who currently needs Medicaid.
Josh Hawley doesn't think that.
No, and Josh Hawley's right about this. This is going to kick people off of Medicaid and health care they've earned. And by the way, with the president campaigned on, I don't remember him campaigning on passing the biggest job-killing bill in the history of this country, which is what the building trades have said. These are the Boilermakers, the iron workers, the steam fitters. That's how they view this bill, as a job killer. I think it's crazy to go down this path. And again, to pay for tax giveaways to the richest, most powerful people. They should be listening to Steve Bannon, of all people, saying raise taxes on millionaires to get our fiscal house in order.
But all you're doing is literally extending the current tax environment that we're living in, right? Now, on top of that, though, there's a lot of pro-family tax policies in this, such as expanding the child tax credit. That is a good thing. These savings accounts, the Trump savings accounts, those are a good thing, too. Cutting taxes on overtime, on tips, the roll-off on Social Security income is going to affect 400,000
Can I say one
in
thing
my
about
state.
work requirements, though? They don't work. We know it's a good line. It's a good messaging line, but work requirements don't work. The senator just in Alabama, they have work requirements in that state, and it didn't actually save money. It just is actually expanding the bureaucracy and making it harder. So there's this application that people who are on Medicaid, because there's a stigma that it's only for poor people, that poor people don't want to work. They do want to work. They're some of the hardest working people in this country. So these work requirements are not actually going to save us money. It actually will.
But it's not just work requirements. They can volunteer their time, or they can be looking for a job or doing education.
Let's just take a quick break, because I also want to talk about another huge political development. A political earthquake in New York City
We have won because New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford, where the mayor will use their power to reject Donald Trump's fascism and to govern our city as a model for the Democratic Party, a party where we fight for working people with no apology.
Welcome back to State of the Union. 33-year-old Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani's seismic win in New York's mayoral primary stunned Democratic leaders. Will they embrace Mamdani as a model for the party, or will they run from him? My panel's back with me. Alyssa, I'll start with you because you live right outside New York City and you work in New York City. What do you make of this? Obviously, Cuomo was a dud, but beyond that, what do you make of the phenomenon of Mamdani?
Never been happier to live in Westchester now and have left the city. But listen, Mamdani was smart to run on the cost of living. That is a universal issue. That's what Donald Trump ran on. It's what propelled him to victory. But he doesn't have the solutions. Democrats should take the lesson from him of talk about pocketbook issues. But this is a guy who is so deeply underqualified. He's going to be running to oversee a $2 trillion economy. The city of New York is comparable to South Korea, Italy. This is a job-creating city, and what he's proposing on the corporate tax rate, Texas, Georgia, Florida, they should be expecting companies to be fleeing New York City if he is elected in the general election because of his policies. And then add to that when he has refused to walk away from some of the most dangerous slogans that have sparked anti-Semitism in this country, when he's had the opportunity to denounce them. We have a huge Jewish population in the city of New York, one of the biggest populations in the entire country. Well, I think he's on a glide path to get elected. I think he's incredibly dangerous for the city of New York.
So Bernie Sanders Sanders tweeted, Democratic Party leaders, you have talked for 6 months about the need to create political excitement to get working class and young people involved in the political process. That's exactly what Zoran did. Get behind him. Waleed Shaleed said, Zoran cracked the code so many Democrats are searching for, laser focus on affordability, scroll-stopping videos, and blend Obama's happy warrior with Bernie's populist anger. Democrats say they want to modernize. This is a playbook. What do you think, Congressman?
Jake, it will shock you that not many of my constituents in Western Pennsylvania care that much about the Democratic primary for mayor of New York City, but I think there are lessons from this race and any others, right? If you're a candidate who is laser focused on bringing down costs, you're hitting the right notes. That's what people are most concerned about. We still have rising inflation in this country. President Trump promised on day one to bring down costs. That hasn't happened. The economy shrank in the first quarter. If I'm sitting in the Oval Office or I'm sitting in the majority, and I'm not, I'd be very worried about that. I'd be very worried that you're not responding to the fundamental problem that people have in this country, that life is too expensive.
So Democratic strategist Rebecca Katz, who worked on the campaigns of both John Fetterman and Ruben Gallego, said, quote, the party establishment's impulse to stifle and ignore some of its most exciting emerging voices isn't limited to progressives. Take Chris Deluzio in Pennsylvania or Pat Ryan in New York, while decidedly more moderate than Mr. Mamdani. Both congressmen campaigned last fall on bringing down costs for people in their swing districts and taking on huge corporations and billionaires, a strategy Mr. Ryan described as patriotic populism. I'm sure that you think Zoran Mamdani is too extreme, but aside from that, is there not something here for Republicans to worry about in terms of the populism kind of being wrenched back from Donald Trump?
No, I don't think so. And thank you for the outset and recognizing he's a socialist, because he absolutely is one. He's talking about government-run grocery stores, free transportation, jacking up tax prices. If you live in West Palm Beach, Florida, your property value is about to skyrocket, likely. To me, this is a gift to the Republican Party, because this guy is going to be a lightning rod that they're going to have to distance themselves from in the upcoming election cycle. Now, what I think happened here is what you saw with Clinton Obama, flashback to that primary, is that the establishment was just trying to roll over and get what they want and push a unpopular person such as Cuomo back into politics, and they just rejected it. They keep running this same kind of playbook, and I think that's what it has more to do with.
What do you think of Zoran Mamdani?
I actually agree with that point. Is
About
that
Cuomo,
right?
Yeah.
I think that two things happened. I think that there was an effective and aggressive no to Cuomo campaign, which opened for whoever was in that primary to find their lane. And Mamdani was the one who found his lane and is now the Democratic nominee. Democrats, when people win our primaries, support them. Help him govern. Don't turn your back on them. What is good in New York City probably is not going to fly in Youngstown, Ohio, where I'm from. But we are the big tent party, at least we used to be. So there's enough space for all of us. Don't let him become mayor and then just turn your back on him. Help him govern. And I am disappointed that more Democrats haven't. There are some things that he says that I find problematic. But Donald Trump is our president, and a lot of people support him, and he said a lot of things that are problematic, too. So we can find our way around things and hold people accountable while still supporting them to be good mayors.
Great panel. Thanks, one and all, for being here. Crowds turned out this weekend to honor